Humans been through some strange times, seen some strange things. But where and what exactly? Weird inventions that changed humanity.
Imagine you're hooking up with different partners. You grow fond of some more than others, but generally you're having a good time. That is, until your lovers start to fall ill and die. For some reason, this
That's not
disease
good.
doesn't affect you, it just kills off your sexual partners. Today, it's easy for us to think it's probably a sexually transmitted disease, but before our modern understanding of sexual health or science in general, your theories of what's killing your lovers might take on wild shapes and forms. In 3000 BCE, King Minos, the ruler of Knossos, and his mistress had this very problem. It was believed that the king had snakes and scorpions in his semen, and that's what was killing his mistresses. He wanted to prevent his wife, Pasiphae, from meeting the same fate, and so a goat bladder was introduced to protect them both during intercourse.
How did I know that's where that was going? I didn't figure it'd be a goat though. I thought it'd be like a sheep or something. It's what, your mind goes to, sheepskin.
And according to the limited historical resources at the time, it worked. Pasiphae lived, and the invention of the condom was born, or at least our first known record of it. The condom might seem common today, but it truly changed humanity. It's been critical in preventing the spread of diseases and unwanted pregnancies. Although it's largely made of latex rubber now, we should never forget its strange origin: goat bladder. These are just some weird inventions that changed humanity.
Here's that title screen.
Cheese was likely invented by numerous early civilizations.
Do we really have to go from condoms to cheese?
There's evidence that suggests cheese making could be over 8,000 years old, with the discovery of ancient hold pottery believed to be cheese strainers. That's older than the oldest known books. Leading theories suggest that cheese was likely produced from storing milk in the dried stomachs of calves or lambs. The rennet from the stomach lining would have separated the curds from the whey, and after someone was brave enough to try the new substance, cheese was born. Cheese stored and traveled much easier than
I wonder how the first person got around to trying cheese. I bet they were really, really hungry and were like, it's either dirt, that, or starve. And if we eat the dirt, we're gonna starve anyway. Might as well just eat the rotten milk.
milk. It's also a source of protein and calcium, improving the health of ancient societies.
I bet it tasted horrible too. And they had to refine it to where it is now in order for it to actually taste good. They added so many things to it, I bet.
A lot of foods can be classified as weird inventions, because how did they know what a particular ingredient would taste like, and how it would mix with other ingredients to make a dish? For the poor in Naples,
I'm sure it happened over time, and it happened when people were really, really hungry or really, really bored.
Italy in the 16th century, ingredients like gallet flatbread and a variety of toppings made cheap street food that was easy to access and, as a result, widely popular. That food is what we know today as pizza. In the 1700s, tomatoes and tomato seeds were sent to Italy by America. This is when the modern incarnation of pizza took off. By the late 1800s, pizza was an established recipe with what is now known as pizza margherita being served to royalty. It went from rags to riches and ultimately became a food for everyone. Today it's both a cheap meal or a higher-end experience served fresh from a wood oven. In 1853, a surly but gifted chef at the Moon Lake Lodge Resort served his standard French fried potato recipe to a fussy customer, and they complained that the potatoes were too thick and soft. Filled with spite, Chef George Crumb sliced the potatoes as thinly as they could and fried them until they were brown. The customer loved this new style of potatoes, and other patrons began requesting the crisps. He called them Saratoga chips, and they were sold in grocery stores decades later. We often encourage people not to act out of spite, but sometimes
Went from talking about condoms to just nothing but food.
this attitude can change the world for the better, or at least give us French fries. Trying to find a morphine alternative to cure headaches and a general pain, a pharmacist named John
No, we're
Pemberton
really just jumping
discovered
around.
something that pairs perfectly with fries. Using cocoa leaves, cola nuts, and the accidental addition of soda water, He invented what we all know as Coca-Cola.
Oh, never mind. I
Now,
thought this was
coca
actually
leaves
going to
do
be
contain
medicine.
traces of cocaine, in case you were wondering where that rumor came from. In the 15th century, an Ethiopian goat herder observed that his goats would stay up all night after eating the berries from a specific tree. The goats were far too energetic to fall asleep. The story goes that the goat herder Kaldi reported his findings to a local monastery, where they made a drink with the berries, and after consuming the drink,
So he got his goats fucked up on some wine. Is that what you're about to tell me?
the abbot found it easy to stay alert during the long hours of an evening prayer. The berries were eventually cultivated in the Arabian Peninsula, where they would reach the rest of the world under the name coffee.
Oh, it was
This hot
coffee.
beverage has influenced the world
Oh, I thought he was feeding it to the goats. No, he was feeding it to himself.
tremendously. How many discoveries, inventions, and research projects wouldn't exist if coffee wasn't there to keep us awake and alert?
It's what sparked the Great Enlightenment. If I remember that correctly. I heard that from somewhere.
Speaking of coffee, about 10 years ago, two financial writers made a friendly bet on which would be a better one-year investment, coffee or gold. At the end of the year, a coffee-based ETF returned over twice as much as a gold one. While this doesn't mean you could just hoard some coffee beans and make a fortune, the story teaches us the financial value of real goods and real assets, whose value are more closely tied to factors like their inherent usefulness, not public speculation. This makes them less likely to fluctuate in value like stocks or bonds. This correlation has turned the world's most prestigious collectibles like fine art into powerful diversification assets.
I'm pretty sure the world is run by art, just these classic art pieces, because billionaires, they get bored and they start collecting stuff. And then when they collect, that's like all that they're enamored with is just trading whatever they collect. And everything else is just side gigs. That's why we're not getting anything done in the world, and that's why we're not getting any help, because they're all worried about their collections.
Useful that new UBS research revealed millionaire and billionaire collectors are allocating between 30 to 50% of their portfolios to fine art to protect their fortunes from potential recessions. But this strategy isn't exclusive to the wealthy anymore. Our longtime sponsors at Masterworks made it possible for investors like you to protect your portfolio with fine art from legends like Picasso, Banksy, and Monet, straight from your smartphone. They've delivered over $45 million in returns from art sales and distributed the proceeds to investors like you, who didn't need to spend millions on a painting or have art scene connections.
So is that real life NFTs? Basically, you're owning a piece of an actual thing. No, that is an NFT. Because you're not actually going to be able to go and get a piece of whatever you've got invested. You're just banking on somebody else buying it, and then you getting a kickback.
They've made 16 exits thus far, and each of them
I guess it's safer than NFTs, real NFTs.
actually returned a profit. Over 850,000 people have joined the platform, and offerings have sold out within minutes. But subscribers of the channel have the chance to skip the waitlist and start collecting today by using the link in the description. Past performance isn't indicative of future returns. See important disclosures at masterworks.com/cd. Over 1,000 years ago, a plague consumed the lives of many villagers in an area of land that is now Germany. The symptoms occurring before death were gruesome, with accounts of reported limbs falling off and victims twisting and contorting from the pain. We now call this condition ergotism, and it comes from consuming infected rye grains. Obviously, it's something you wouldn't wish upon anyone, but in small controlled doses. The fungus found in tainted rye could be used to stimulate the respiratory and circulatory systems. Researchers attempted to develop a synthetic version using the common shared nucleus of active compounds in ergot. Scientist Albert Hofmann was involved in the experiment, and out of curiosity, he started combining this synthetic compound with other organic compounds. His compound, LSD-25,
I know about this story. I hear about it every year around April 19th.
didn't seem to work as intended, but had a notable effect on the test animals. They became excited in strange ways that intrigued Albert. He returned to synthesizing LSD-25 years later, inspired by his memories of the animals' behavior during the tests. Working at the lab, he accidentally exposed himself to the compound and had to leave work early.
And that's how he got on that bike and had a bike ride through eternity. And that's how we got Bicycle Day.
experiencing dizziness and an excited imagination. LSD-25 had put him in a dreamlike state filled with incredible images and colors. When he repeated his intake of LSD-25 in a more controlled form, he had a similar reaction but also some nightmarish experiences. Hoffman continued using the substance at home with friends but found the experience to be inconsistent. He had trips filled with ecstatic love for all things but also deep depression. LSD has been used illicitly ever since, inspiring the likes of Steve Jobs, Paul McCartney, and George Carlin in their endeavors.
Who was the guy that was given the LSD to the dolphin, and the dolphin was fucking a chick?
The inventor of the Slinky had no intentions of making a toy for kids. Richard James was a mechanical engineer trying to use coiled wires to secure equipment on ships at sea. He accidentally dropped his coil wires and they tumbled end over end on the floor. It struck him that this coil might make for a good toy, and it definitely did. Most of us have had several in our lifetime and are filled with fond memories of making them walk downstairs.
Plastics are being used to such an extent throughout the world that we
Here we go. This is the guy that put the plastic in our blood.
may well ask what was used before its discovery.
The first synthetic plastic was initially created as a substitute for ivory. John Wesley Hyatt treated cellulose from cotton fiber with camphor to create a plastic that could mold to different shapes. His substance worked as a replacement for ivory and many other natural materials. His invention initially had a big environmental benefit, saving elephants and turtles from being killed for their tusks and shells.
Yeah, that took a turnaround.
Plastic also made
Ended up killing the turtles anyway.
more items more affordable, changing the lives of those who couldn't afford items made with natural materials. How plastics are made has changed a lot since then, and so has their impact on the environment. Plastic is everywhere, causing tremendous harm to wildlife and humans. There's strong evidence that plastic leaches out into our food, water, and bodies every day. We're only just beginning to understand all the harm this causes. War is, unfortunately, a time of great technological innovation. After the Second World War, many of the wartime innovations transitioned neatly into home appliances. After experimenting with a radar in 1945, Percy Spencer noticed that magnetrons
We about to be talking about a microwave?
were emitting heat-generating microwaves.
Yep.
He made a large 6-foot prototype of the microwave that quickly became small enough to fit
See,
in kitchens
I
around
know
the
some
world.
stuff.
Decades later,
I've
many
learned
grocery
some
store
stuff.
food items would
We
be
learned
created with
stuff
the
here.
intention of being heated in the microwave. In 1895, a professor of physics named William Roken made a discovery that revolutionized healthcare across the globe. He was experimenting to see if cathode rays could pass through glass. He covered his cathode tube in black paper.
MRI. Is it MRI?
But an incandescent green light escaped and projected onto a fluorescent
X-rays.
screen nearby.
It's
The unknown
X-rays.
ray would pass through most things, but leave shadows of more solid objects. The light could even pass through human tissue, making bones visible. Within a year of the discovery, doctors in Europe and the United States used these X-rays to look at broken bones and find foreign objects in the human body. It took several decades to discover the harmful effects of X-ray radiation, leading to strict protocols for exposing patients to it. Returning from a holiday, Dr. Alexander Fleming came home to find mold growing. Although
This one's an obvious one. This one's gonna be penicillin.
this sounds like an experience we've all had, the difference is that this batch of mold would save the lives of millions. The mold was growing in a petri dish of Staphylococcus bacteria. It appeared to be preventing the bacteria around it from growing. The mold was producing a self-defense chemical that could kill bacteria. Purifying this chemical proved difficult for the doctor and further research teams. When scientists did finally purify the chemical, the yield was much too small. Eventually, research assistant Mary Hunt found a rotting cantaloupe with mold that produced 6 times the amount of chemicals as their previous efforts. This led to penicillin becoming available for the public use for the first time. Bacteria have evolved to become resistant to penicillin and other antibiotics, but the discovery has definitely saved lives on a massive scale. Hopefully, we continue to find new antibiotics to heal bacterial infections. Working on an experimental paste for guns, pharmacist John Walker accidentally created one
I'm gonna try and guess it. Nope, got nothing.
of the world's easiest ways of producing fire. John used a wooden instrument to mix his paste, and when he accidentally scraped it, the wood caught fire. The pharmacist sold his
Matches?
matchsticks, or friction lights as he called them, but never bothered to patent his invention out of concern that the paste dripped easily
Can't
on
give-
floors and...
Can't give myself that one. I said it right as he said it. No points. No points
shirts.
awarded.
Many copied his invention, and eventually matchsticks were made with white phosphorus. This led to horrible working conditions for the women and children workers in matchstick factories. Many developed debilitating conditions that horribly disfigured them and made them unemployable. In 1910, white phosphorus was banned from the production of matches. Winter can be long and punishing for many, and it can be especially hard on those trying to take care of some restless kids. This is what inspired the invention of one of North America's most popular sports. In December of 1981, a blizzard
Hockey. Yeah? Yeah, it's hockey, yeah.
took over Springfield, Massachusetts, forcing students indoors at the local college. The physical instructor, James Naismith, struggled to keep his students entertained. He grabbed an old soccer ball and hung up a couple of beach baskets on either end of the gymnasium. The goal of the game was to get the soccer ball into the basket. The students loved the game, and after numerous rule adjustments, it became the
had no
sport we know
idea.
today as basketball.
Wow.
Many of the things we see today we take for
What was that, 1981? What did he say? 1950?
a couple of beach baskets. Struggled to keep us indoors at the December of... This is what inspired the invention of especially hard on those trying to take care of some restless kids. This is what inspired the invention of one of North America's most popular sports. In December of 1981, a blizzard took over Springfield, Massachusetts, forcing students
1981.
indoors at the local college. The
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm glad I clicked on that video. It's good video. I give it 9.8 out of 10. I learned some things. Learned basketball was invented in 1981 because of a blizzard and a bunch of bored kids. What else did I learn? I forgot.